Welcome to today's deep dive. We've got a really specific mission for you today.
We do. We're going to completely reframe how you think about physical movement.
Right, because we're pulling our insights from some translated source material today. Specifically, Chapter 6 of Maria Montessori's really groundbreaking book, The Discovery of the Child.
Yeah, the chapter is called Education in Movement. And the goal today is to move far away from this cultural assumption that movement is just a way for kids to burn off energy.
Exactly. I mean, we're going to explore the profound biological truths about how the mind and the body connect, and we'll actually be providing a step-by-step guide to this fascinating exercise called walking on the line.
But to really grasp why this reframe is even necessary, we have to start by picturing a typical school playground.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
Just think about what happens the exact second the recess bell rings.
It's chaos.
Total chaos. The doors fly open, and it's literally like a dam break. Kids just pour out onto the blacktop, turning into these screaming, highly agitated creatures.
Just aimlessly crashing into each other.
Exactly. And, we usually just smile at that scene. We write it off as kids being kids.
Yeah, we say, oh, they're just getting the whittles out.
Right. But when you look at this through the lens of early childhood development, that innocent playground scene, it starts to look like a symptom of a much deeper problem.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that's a big claim.
It is, but it points to a really profound structural misunderstanding of human biology in, well, traditional education.
So that wild, hysterical running isn't just natural exuberance?
No, the source material argues it's a physiological reaction to being artificially caged. I mean, the traditional educational system treats children as if they're just floating brains.
Floating brains.
Yeah, and their bodies are viewed as these heavy, cumbersome suitcases that they're basically required to check at their desks so their brains can concentrate.
Wow, checking their bodies at the door. That's the catastrophic misconception at the heart of older educational models, right? The idea that the mind and the body are entirely separate entities.
Exactly. You force a child to sit still for, say, 4 consecutive periods. You're essentially paralyzing them by demanding they don't move a single muscle.
And then society acts surprised when they explode into absolute chaos the second they're released.
Right, because the historical ideal of a student was literally a statue. I mean, desks actually used to be bolted to the floor.
Oh, yeah. You sit perfectly still, you do not move, and you absorb information passively.
Exactly. In that model, physical movement is viewed as riotous. It's seen as inherently rebellious.
But Montessori completely inverted this paradigm.
She did. Looking at the neurology and the biology of a developing child, she identified movement not as a distraction, but as the executive organ of the mind.
The executive organ, I love that phrasing. It makes the body sound like the CEO's administrative assistant.
Yeah.
Like the one who actually gets things done in the physical world. Ideas, no matter how brilliant they are just theoretical concepts without the muscles to actually execute them.
That's spot on. The human will is really only formed when a child generates a thought like, I want to grasp this cup. And then their physical nervous system translates that thought into a synchronized muscle action.
So the physical action is basically the feedback loop the mind uses to build itself.
Exactly. If a mind doesn't interact with the physical world through movement, its growth is severely stunted.
So let's apply this to the clumsy child. We all know a kid who constantly drops things or, spills juice or bumps into door frames.
Sure.
We often assume they just have weak muscles or, poor spatial awareness. In the past, people might have compared it to a bad Wi-Fi connection between the brain and the body.
Right, where the signal just drops.
Yeah, but looking at the source material, it sounds much more like an orchestra where the conductor has the sheet music, but the musicians are all playing slightly out of time. The intent is there, but the coordination is out of sync.
A mistuned orchestra is a fantastic way to visualize this. The neurological signal from the brain's motor cortex is struggling to translate into fluid, synchronized muscle action.
The timing is off.
The timing is off, the spatial feedback is lagging,
Yeah.
and this disrupted translation is exactly why Montessori doesn't just throw kids into traditional physical education or gymnastics to exhaust their bodies.
Because running laps until they're tired doesn't tune the orchestra.
No, it doesn't.
It just exhausts the musicians, so they stop playing.
Exactly. Which might make the classroom quieter, sure, but it doesn't help the child develop. She calls her approach education in movement because the objective is to elevate the movement.
The goal is to bring intent and physical action into perfect, harmonious alignment.
Right. And if the goal is to tune that orchestra and synchronize the mind and the muscles, you have to subject the child's motor control to a highly deliberate stress test.
Which brings us to the centerpiece of today's deep dive. We promised a step-by-step guide to the famous walking on the line exercise,
Yes.
and the mechanics of why this specific activity works are absolutely fascinating. So let's break down the setup. Step one, you don't just ask a child to walk in a straight line down a hallway. You draw a thick line on the floor in the shape of an ellipse, like an oval. Why an oval?
Well, the shape is a critical piece of the engineering here.
Yeah.
A straight line only requires one relatively simple type of balance. An ellipse introduces the need for continuous, subtle micro-adjustments.
Oh, because they're turning.
Exactly. As the child navigates the straightaways and then leans into the gentle curves of the oval, they're forced to deal with asymmetrical weight distribution.
Wow.
Yeah, their inner ear, their vestibular system, it has to constantly recalculate their center of gravity as the angle of their path changes.
Okay, so that's step one. Step two involves the ambiance. You don't do this in a noisy gymnasium with whistles blowing, right?
Definitely not. You play very calm, regular classical music to establish a steady rhythm.
But why classical music specifically? Why not just use a ticking metronome or, I don't know, do it in absolute silence?
It comes down to predictability and neurological entrainment.
Entrainment.
Yeah. Classical music, particularly pieces with a clear, steady tempo like a march or a slow waltz, actually entrains the brain's motor cortex.
Oh, that makes sense.
The auditory rhythm provides an external scaffolding for the internal timing of the physical steps. It helps the nervous system anticipate the next movement.
So by providing that rhythm, you reduce the cognitive load of the child having to figure out when to step.
Right, allowing them to focus entirely on how to step.
Which leads directly into step three, the execution. The child walks on this line exactly like a circus tightrope walker.
Yes, strictly heel to toe without deviating a single millimeter from that thick line.
So by forcing a heel-to-toe walk, the exercise deliberately strips away the child's standard wide base of support.
Exactly. Normally humans walk with our feet roughly parallel, shoulder width apart. That is highly stable.
Right.
But heel to toe puts the body's center of gravity on a razor's edge. Every single micromuscle in the ankle, the calves, and the core has to fire in real time just to prevent the body from tipping over.
Okay, now we hit step four, the progression. And this is where the concepts really get put to the test. Once a child masters the basic heel-to-toe walk on the curve, you introduce what the source calls synthetic movement.
Yes.
You have a 4-year-old walk this tightrope line while carrying a glass filled to the absolute brim with water.
Or they carry a small bell, and the strict rule is that the bell is absolutely forbidden to ring while they walk.
Okay, wait, I have to push back hard on this one.
I knew you would.
Because walking heel to toe on a line requires focus, sure, but giving a 4-year-old a brim-filled glass of water, that doesn't sound like building focus. It sounds like a recipe for building anxiety.
I get that.
I mean, how does creating a high-stakes situation where they're terrified of spilling water or ringing a bell actually help their nervous system? It seems like it would just induce panic.
It's a vital distinction to make. The goal is not to create panic. The goal is to demand total, unified engagement. Panic happens when a challenge drastically exceeds a person's capacity. But remember, this is step 4 in a progression. The child has already mastered the baseline balance.
Right. They're already good at the walking part.
Exactly. So adding the water forces a biomechanical miracle of equilibrium. When they carry that water, they have to synthesize multiple, distinct sensory and motor feedback loops simultaneously.
Let's look closely at that biomechanical feedback loop then. To keep that water perfectly steady while walking heel to toe, the child's visual cortex has to track the surface of the water in the glass.
Right.
That visual data is sent to the brain, which then sends immediate microcorrections down to the arms and hands to keep the glass level.
While simultaneously, the brain is sending entirely different signals to the core muscles to stabilize the torso and managing the complex, razor-edge ankle movements required to stay on the line.
And their inner ears working overtime to manage the curves of the ellipse.
Exactly. This is the essence of synthetic movement. It means synthesizing or coordinating multiple body parts and diverse sensory systems for a single, unified goal.
The nervous system bandwidth is completely maxed out. There is literally no room left for the mind to wander.
None.
If they think about what's for lunch or look out the window for a split second, the visual feedback loop breaks, the hands tilt, and the water spills.
And the beauty of it is that the physical environment provides immediate, objective feedback. A spilled drop of water or a ringing bell isn't a teacher yelling or issuing a punishment.
Right.
It is just the laws of physics, politely informing the child that their focus slipped. This removes the social anxiety.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, the child learns from the physical feedback itself. The mind and the body are forced to merge into one highly efficient processing unit.
And the result is what the source material beautifully calls a royal walk. That random, chaotic, crashing into each other run from the playground we talked about earlier transforms into a demonstration of peak self-control.
It really does.
When you see a young child doing this, their eyes shining with intense concentration, their posture perfectly straight, actively controlling every single muscle fiber, you aren't just seeing a neat physical parlor trick.
No, you are witnessing the physical manifestation of inner discipline.
It is a real-time calibration of the human nervous system. They're literally building the physical infrastructure required to sustain deep focus.
Absolutely.
But if we accept that movement is the executive organ of the mind and that mastering complex movement builds this profound focus, we run into a fascinating paradox when that movement actually stops.
We do.
The source material takes us through a transition from this peak synthetic movement into peak stillness, and we're so culturally conditioned to think of sitting still as, doing nothing.
Yet the texts reveal a completely counterintuitive truth. Immobility is actually the most difficult form of movement.
Wait, really? Immobility is movement?
Yes. To sit perfectly still without a single twitch, without slouching, without fidgeting, requires engaging and actively controlling a vast network of postural muscles. Immobility is an active state of restraint, not a passive state of sleep.
So what does this all mean for the quiet child in the classroom? It means a child in a thoughtfully prepared environment isn't sitting still because they are lazy or disengaged.
No.
And they certainly aren't sitting still because they're terrified of an authority figure scolding them. They are sitting perfectly still because they are incredibly strong.
Their muscles and their nerves are entirely under their command. When they sit in silence, it is an active, deliberate choice executed by a highly coordinated nervous system.
That is so powerful.
The sources make a profound point here about the concept of etiquette. True etiquette isn't about fake posturing or rigidly adhering to forced external rules.
Right.
True etiquette is the ultimate control of the spirit over the body. It is a child choosing to be still, knowing full well they have the strength and the coordination to move beautifully whenever they wish to.
It's the difference between a car that is parked because it has a broken engine and a high-performance sports car idling perfectly at a stoplight.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
One is broken and incapable of movement. The other is actively restraining immense power. The engine is humming, it is perfectly tuned, and it is ready to go the exact second the light turns green.
Exactly. Education and movement creates a child who moves with deliberate purpose, who possesses physical grace, and who, when they choose to sit, sits with absolute dignity. They own their physical vessel entirely.
This completely reframes how you look at every child in your life. And the best part is, you don't need a specialized classroom or an expensive school to start tuning that mind-body connection. You can bring this right into your living room today.
You really can.
Take some painter's tape or masking tape, put a thick oval line on your rug, put on some calm rhythmic music, and play the line game with your kids.
Start simple. Just the heel-to-toe walking to build that baseline balance. As they master the mechanics of the curves and the asymmetrical weight distribution, up the stakes.
Give them the walk.
Yeah. Have them carry a small tray, a cup filled near the top with water, or a little bell that they must strive to keep completely silent.
You're actively helping them integrate their personality and unify their mental and physical powers. You are giving them the tools to transform the chaotic stomping and crashing in your house into an exercise of art, balance, and profound focus.
Because as we've learned today, physical movement isn't the enemy of concentration.
Right.
It is the very tool that builds it. The body isn't a cumbersome suitcase you check at the door of learning. It is the highly sophisticated instrument through which all learning actually happens.
And consider where this source material ultimately leads. The child who has mastered the line now completely owns their physical vessel. They have aligned their mind and their muscles. They've mastered their own will.
They are now finally equipped to truly discover the world.
But the universe they're stepping into is a vastly complex code of colors, sounds, weights, and shapes.
So think about this. If a child has developed the profound internal focus required to control a single, trembling drop of water in a glass while walking heel to toe on a curved line,
What hidden microscopic details of the universe are they now equipped to decode that the rest of us, who are still rushing and crashing through life, simply blow right past?
It really makes you wonder.
The next time you see a kid just sitting perfectly still, staring intently at a leaf or a bug on the sidewalk,
Yeah.
ask yourself, are they zoned out? Or are they just using that incredibly strong, finely tuned instrument to see something the rest of us are simply too clumsy to notice?